All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're diving into a game with a pretty wild goal: to make digital ideas heavy. Yeah, you heard that right. It's called Tesseract, and is trying to tackle one of the biggest issues we have in our digital world.
So let's start with this core idea right here. Think about it. Bits are weightless. Information online, it's so light, almost like smoke. It can just float away from its original meaning, lose its context. It just kind of drifts.
And that's where Tesseract comes in, asking this huge question. What if a game could actually make ideas heavy? What if you could build something, a system, that fights back against that drift? Something that gives our digital ideas some real stability, some shared meaning, all through a game.
Okay, so what is this thing? At first glance, Tesseract just looks like another daily online game, you know? But when you look under the hood, it's actually this really sophisticated engine, all designed to create shared meaning. Here's how it works. The whole game is played on this 12 by 12 grid. But these 144 squares, they aren't just spaces you move a piece to. Nope. Each and every tile is a question, a really specific question about how two totally different concepts smash together to create a brand new meaning. And to answer those questions, everyone uses the same vocabulary. The whole game is built on these 12 core concepts. The system calls them axes. You can think of them like the fundamental building blocks, kind of like the DNA of this game's world. And they cover everything from big picture stuff like strategy down to the nitty-gritty of operations. This is the language everyone has to speak. So, every single day, here's the challenge. The game picks one tile. And it's not asking for some generic dictionary definition. No way. It's asking, what do all 12 of our foundational axes mean? Right here, at this specific intersection. It's this daily ritual, this process of creating meaning that's incredibly specific.
All right, so how do you actually play it? What does this whole daily ritual thing look like when you're the one playing?
Well, the gameplay loop is pretty cool. It's got 6 steps. First, you get an email with the day's tile. Then, and this is interesting, you actually use an AI as a kind of thinking partner to help you come up with 12 new definitions. Once you've got them, you submit your set to the grid. Now, this is where it gets really clever. The system finds the player whose definitions are the most like yours, and then you get to choose to back their interpretation, to basically step on their ground and say, I agree with this. The person whose definition set gets the most backing, they win the day.
And this is where you see something the game calls your twist. It's all about nuance. So let's take that law access, for example. For one player, the law of a strategy might be a deadline, a time thing. But for someone else, it could be a boundary, a limit on the scope. See, they're both totally valid takes on strategy, law, but they're coming from completely different angles. That's the kind of subtle difference the game is built to find and weigh.
Okay, so we're all defining things, but how does that actually create any value? Let's pop the hood and look at the engine, because this system is building a lot more than just a list of goal definitions. The whole thing runs on a 2-currency economy, which is pretty smart. You've got fuel, which is basically what you spend to participate, to back other people's ideas, and then you have points, which are your reputation. You only earn points when other people back your ideas. And you can't just buy points, which is key. It totally separates your ability to play from how good your ideas actually are. And check this out. This system creates a positive-sum game. It's not a zero-sum thing. Every time a player spends 10 fuel to back an idea, 20 new points are created out of thin air. 5 go to the person who did the backing, sort of a reward for having good taste, and 15 go to the person who wrote the original definition. So the simple act of agreeing with someone, it literally creates new value in the game. That's awesome. And here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. This is not a popularity contest. The AI behind Tesseract isn't just counting likes or upvotes. It's doing something way more sophisticated. It's measuring the deep, structural alignment between different sets of definitions. It's looking for the ideas that fit together perfectly, like puzzle pieces, not just the one that gets the most clicks. So, why go to all this trouble? I mean, why build this incredibly elaborate system? This is where we get to the real vision behind Tesseract. And trust me, it goes way, way beyond just being a clever game. At its very core, Tesseract is a weapon against a huge problem with AI and large language models. And that's their tendency to just regress to the mean, They give you that mushy, middle-of-the-road, average answer. They have a habit of smoothing out all the sharp, spiky, interesting edges of real human thought. So Tesseract fights that mushiness with one simple but really powerful rule. When you submit your 12 definitions, the core concept for each one, what it calls the latent word, has to be unique. You can't just use the word synergy or pressure a dozen times. You are forced to dig deeper, to find 12 different, super specific words. And that one rule stops the whole thing from just collapsing into buzzwords.
So you see, the goal here is not to find the most average definition, the one that's easiest for everyone to agree with. The goal is to find the most dense one, the one that packs the most meaning, the most nuance, the most structural integrity into its 12 little definitions. And that really is the core philosophy right there. Density beats volume, always. The actual substance, the weight of an idea, is way more important than how many people just casually click a like button. And over time, this has a pretty profound effect. See, every single winning definition becomes a permanent landmark on the grid. It provides context for all the games that come after it. The system is literally building its own language, a language that gets richer and more intelligent over time. It actually gets smarter because its own history is baked right into its future. Which, of course, leaves us with this one big, provocative question. Tesseract is clearly more than a game, right? It's an experiment in collective intelligence. It's a tool for a community to build its own shared, stable, meaningful reality. So, if a community can really, truly, and rigorously define its own language, what else can it build?